I want to talk about what you think can be done, because you're saying, hey, talk is cheap. Enough talk. Let's get some action. New York City Mayor Eric Adams thinks that there needs to be some action here. He classified this as a mental health crisis in the city. So how do you solve this crisis? Let's say enough talking, you could snap your fingers and action could be done tomorrow.
We would open up state facilities again where there could be long-term treatment for people with mental illness, like bipolar, like a condition like schizophrenia. And these are things that we're seeing every day on the streets. We just saw another incident on a train car where a man was sitting there minding his own business. Someone got on, sat next to him, started to engage him. The man did not engage, and all of a sudden this poor man was just punched in the face by that other person, and that person was apprehended. We have to start to look into dangerousness. No one wants to talk about dangerousness, which would mean if a person is a danger to themselves or someone else, that they could be put into a mental health facility for evaluation. But 72 hours is not enough. We need to have facilities that can give long-term treatment. No one wants to pass a law for dangerousness. We've asked for it in the city council. We've asked for it on a state level, and no one wants to touch it. We need to start to look at dangerousness as a law that needs to be passed.
Councilmember, I ride the subway every day. I'm sure you ride the subway as well as a New Yorker. In my conversations regarding this case, I continuously ask people, what do you do when there's an erratic person on the train? Because your colleague, Councilmember Palladino, earlier this year posted a video of someone acting erratically, and she said, what are people supposed to do when someone's acting like this? The answers I've gotten have been everything from engage them to ignore them, keep your headphones in. What do you think is the appropriate response?
Well, I think it happens in a split second what the appropriate response is. If that person is coming towards you and looking to do bodily harm, you'd have one response. If the person is just running through from train car to train car erratically, there would be a different response. So I think that each action would dictate what the response would be. But in each and every one of those scenarios, there's fear, and people shouldn't be in fear to ride the subways, especially when we're trying to get people to use public transit, especially into Manhattan, more than using their cars, especially with congestion pricing coming, where it's going to be very expensive to get into Manhattan. But we cannot get people to go on the subways if they don't feel safe. And right now, the subways have become a haven for the homeless and for the mentally ill.
I want to talk about someone who's received a fair share of criticism after the verdict was announced, and that was Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg. The New York Post editorial board wrote this, quote, in acquitting Penny, the jury resoundingly rejected Bragg's progressive pro-crime agenda, which has turned Gotham into a playground for recidivist criminals and an open-air psychiatric ward for the mentally unwell. The people harmed most by this madness are the very communities that progressives claim they want to help: low-income minority New Yorkers. Governor Hochul, if she cares about crime, should take note and finally remove Bragg from office. What do you think about that assessment?
I think the assessment is spot on, and we've been calling for that for a very long time. And I think that people are really waking up to the fact that they're not going to live in an unsafe city anymore. They're not going to put up with turnstile justice. I think that this was a courageous jury that didn't shake in the verdict. They knew that the verdict could be called controversial. They knew that there would be protests. They knew that there could be some type of threats on their own lives, but they did the right thing. They followed the rule of law. And I think once the people took away the manslaughter charge, I knew that they knew that their case was falling apart. Daniel Penny should never have been arrested. And it's enough to say that you need to recall a district attorney, but is that really the answer? The answer is that our state legislators need to change the criminal justice laws and the bail reform laws that dictate what the district attorneys are permitted to do and the judges are permitted to do. Those are the things that need to change before we can say, well, you're not doing your job as a DA, because the state and the laws are not really representative of what maybe the DA would do in a different situation.